Hello and welcome. I'm Amy McNally, the founder of Body First Living, which is a wellness brand helping women create success and the life that they desire without sacrificing their health along the way. And I'm so excited because today I get to teach you EFT tapping. So, this is something that I have personally and professionally used for over a decade. So, I bring a lot of experience to the table, but still, all these years in, I get so excited knowing that I get to share this gift with other people. So I do have some notes just because I want to make sure I don't forget anything, because it's such an amazing technique and I would be doing it a disservice if I left some things out. So first things first, what is EFT and or tapping? So a lot of people refer to it tapping, myself included, but it actually stands for emotional freedom technique. So that's where the EFT comes in. And you'll better understand why we call it tapping before the end of this session. And I'm going to be able to guide you through an experience at the end, which I'm really excited for. But before we do that, it's really important that you understand why this technique is so amazing and also how it works. Okay. So, why it is so important is that now more than ever, we are experiencing our nervous systems being activated. Okay. And I know this is a buzzword, like a lot of people are talking about nervous system regulation and all the things, but I would bet that most people don't understand what that means and what's going on inside of the body, which is totally okay. I'm going to help shed some light on that today. So, first things first, when our stress response is activated, meaning our body senses any kind of threat. Okay, so this could be something stresses you out. This could be you open up a stressful email. This could be you have some health stuff going on, right? There's a number of things. It could be kids, it could be life, it could be parents, it could be relationships, right? We are not short on the amount of things that can cause stress in our day-to-day lives. So, what happens when we are stressed, right? Our nervous system is activated. That's another way to say it, is that one of four things are going to happen. Okay. You're either going to go into fight, you're going to go into flee, you're going to go into freeze or fawn mode. Okay, so a lot of us are familiar with fight or flight, right? It's literally like I'm gonna fight the thing in order to stay safe, and or I'm gonna flee. I'm gonna get the heck out of there, right? Less often are talked about freeze, right? Which is quite literally what it sounds like, which is where you can do nothing, right? You just shut down. And then fawn, Fawn, this is so underrated and this shows up a lot. So, this is actually where we resort to people pleasing in an effort to make other people happy and an effort to not rock the boat, right? And all four of these things are coping mechanisms. They are designed to keep us safe. And again, it really stemmed from back in the day when we needed to be able to either fight off predators like lions and bears, or we needed to flee, right? We either needed to have the energy and the stamina to fight that or to get out of Dodge and be safe, right? And or possibly even freeze and become really still, like and hide underneath something, right? So again, I don't want to demonize these by any means. They are there for a reason. They are there to keep us safe. However, again, in today's society, we are just chronically stressed. And so here's where the issue really comes to play is that in a regulated nervous system, okay, a regulated nervous system, there's three different things happening. So the first thing we're getting activated, okay, which is what we just talked about. So one of four stress responses will kick in for you. Now, you can experience all four of them, not at the same time, but you might resonate with, oh my gosh, I notice in some scenarios I tend to fawn, right? I tend to people please. I notice in other scenarios I tend to shut down, right? That is so normal. So your stress response will vary depending on the situation and what's happening. Okay, so that's really important. So in a regulated nervous system, the first thing that's happening is you're being activated. So one of those four things are happening. The second thing that happens is then you are able to complete the stress cycle. And the third thing is that you bring your body back to safety. Okay, so I'm curious, no judgment. I'm curious, do you know how to complete the stress response cycle? Most people don't. Okay, most people don't. So if you said no, you're with the majority of the population. Okay, and or if I were to ask you, do you know how to bring your body back to safety? Would you know how to do that? Again, most people don't. So what happens is we are living in a chronic state of survival. Okay. Meaning that one of these four things are happening every single day in most cases, right? And again, it can be small, it can be big, it can be anywhere in between, right? It can be as small as an email. It could be you're on your way to work or to drop your kids off or to a health appointment and somebody pulls out in front of you, or there's, something where your safety is compromised, right? It could even be something much bigger. You know what I mean? It runs the gamut there, but every time your stress response is being activated. So if we don't know how to complete the stress cycle, and if we don't know how to create safety in our body, what's happening is we are just piling on stress after stress after stress after stress. Okay. And as you can imagine, this does a number on our body. Okay. So this is where we see things like hormone imbalance. This is where we see things like inflammation in the body. This is where we see digestive issues. Fun side facts, or not so fun. When we are stressed, your digestion, it's offline. Like it's not, that process is not working. Okay. So again, you can imagine that if you're having these chronic stress, situations that pop up, again, big, little, medium, small, and you're not, again, handling them in the proper way, this is when we see chronic digestion issues. Okay. We also see things like blood sugar dysregulation, which also ties into hormone imbalance. And it's just this whole really not great situation. Okay. We also see fatigue, exhaustion, burnout, brain fog, anxiety. And again, I'm giving you this list because there was a time where I could literally check off almost every single thing. Like, yep, I have that. Yep, I have that. Yep, I have that. Also, low motivation. Okay. And again, this is just a small list of things that are happening. Again, all of these things are happening because our stressors have piled up and we didn't know how to navigate them properly. Okay. So, how does EFT tapping play into this? Is that it actually helps you complete the stress cycle. I know, excited, right? And most importantly, it helps you feel safe in your body again. So there's a lot of like sciencey things that are happening when we're tapping, but all you really need to remember is that it helps you create safety in your body. Okay, so more specifically, it's sending calming signals to your amygdala, which is a part of the brain that is responsible for, again, like noticing any threats, right? So it's the thing that will sound off the alarm when we're done, when we aren't safe, and it will disable the alarm when it feels safe. Okay. So tapping, it's so powerful because there's a lot of things at play. Again, one, it's sending calming signals to your brain, which we just talked about. Two, we are physically touching the body. Okay. If you think about this from a logical standpoint, if you are in a really serious situation, you're typically not stopping to gently touch your body, right? Which is what we do in tapping. So again, the touch sends like safety to the body. Also the rhythm. So if you've ever even heard of things like the butterfly hug, which is where you do this and there's a very rhythmic touch. Okay, so that sends calming signals to our body as well as the focused attention, right? So, again, if you are in a true stressful situation, you're not going to be stopping to be like, hey, let me do some tapping, right? Like in the real world. So, it's really just this fabulous like hack, if you will, um, like a health hack because again, it's helping you come out of that stress response. And so this is life-changing for people who have chronic stress, right? And or people who tend to run a little bit more anxious or people who have health issues. This is so fantastic for all of that, which we'll dive into some of the clinical research as well. But another thing that's so great about tapping is that it also supports your brain's ability to create new pathways. Okay. Again, the term is neuroplasticity, and I know that sounds really fancy, but essentially what it's doing is it's taking things that maybe you used to believe. So maybe it was that life is out to get me, or life is unfair, or bad things always happen to me, right? Those are some examples of beliefs that, people might have that aren't supportive. So through tapping consistently, you can actually start to rewire and change that pattern to believe something more supportive, right? Like I have all the support I could ever need, or I'm healthy, happy, and free, right? Whatever it is that you are wanting to experience. So again, lots of things at play when we are tapping, which is why it's one of the many reasons why it's so amazing. And having a background in marriage and family therapy, it's really, really important to me to only use modalities that have clinical research, right? And have been studied for its efficacy, have literally been proven that yes, this works. So it's just some of the studies, again, I'm not trying to bore you by any means, but it is important for you to understand, again, what it is, how it works, why it works, and the clinical research, right? Because if here's why, okay? If we believe that something is going to work, it's going to work, right? It's more likely to work. So this is why I'm taking the time to really dive into this with you versus if you just jump into it and you don't really understand all these things, you might just be kind of like half in, half out, right? But if you see the power in it and how magical it can actually be for you on your specific journey, you're much more likely to buy in, right? And be excited to use it. And that is what I want. So some of the clinical studies, it has been clinically proven to reduce the stress hormone cortisol. Okay. Now we all have cortisol, right? It helps us wake up. We start our day off with it. However, that stress response that I was talking about. So every time we're activated, every time something happens, again, whether it's small, medium, large, like pick your size, right? Our body is being flooded with cortisol. Okay, that is not good. Like large amounts of that is actually really bad for our body. So tapping has been shown to clinically reduce your cortisol levels. And this is where it gets really crazy. Okay, it's actually been proven to be more effective than talk therapy. Okay. Now, again, as a former therapist, that is a really, really, really big deal. So, again, I want you to be excited and proud to use this technique. There's been numerous studies done with post-traumatic stress disorder, specifically with veterans and people who experienced, wars and things like that. But again, even if it's post-traumatic stress disorder for something completely different, again, whether it's health, whether it's business, whether it's something in your life you experience, tapping can help you process that. It also helps with phobias. Okay, so fun fact, that is actually how EFT was originally created, believe it or not. There was a psychologist, his name was Roger Callahan, and he was working with a client. I think her name is Mary, doesn't matter. There was a clinical psychologist working with a patient, and she had a really intense phobia of water. Okay, so like swimming pools, just like she couldn't do it. And so he had been working with her for quite some time. And they just like they weren't making any progress. They had even done exposure therapy where he would take her like, near water and all the things, right? It wasn't working, wasn't working, wasn't working. Well, finally, he had remembered something that he had studied about the meridian points, which is what we use in tapping, correlating with different things in our body, essentially, whether it was fear response or different organs. So he had her tap while sitting by the pool. And after that session, like her water phobia was like cleared. Isn't that crazy? After like several sessions of working together, doing again, talk therapy, exposure therapy, different kinds of therapy, and nothing was moving the needle forward. So, fun fact there. I can also help with things like food cravings. Okay. So, again, it's everything from anxiety to PTSD to reducing your stress levels to processing some really heavy things, right? And or as I don't want to say limited, but like changing your thoughts, right? Changing your beliefs. So again, it's a technique that really meets you where you're at, depending on what you need support with. So let's talk about how to get started, okay? I hope that I have convinced you that it's amazing enough to at least try, okay? And to be open to trying it if you never have before. So, how we get started with tapping is there's something called a SUDS scale. Okay, so again, fancy names, like I don't know why all of these techniques have such fancy names, but it's essentially just a simple way to measure how intense you're feeling something in your body in any given moment. Okay, that's all. That's all it is. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 means there's no distress. Okay, it means you are calm, you are neutral, you are regulated, right? Like right now, I'm feeling very neutral, right? Like I'm not activated, I'm not upset, like I'm just feeling good and I'm feeling excited to be here with you today. So 10, so the opposite end of the spectrum, is going to be your highest level of distress. Okay, so this is where you might feel intense emotions, whether physically or again, maybe you're just feeling really upset about something. So this could be something that just happened. It could be that you are recalling a memory or an event or something like that, right? It's again, all it is it's a way to measure the like intensity level that you are feeling in your body at any given moment. So, what I would like to do is lead you through some EFT tapping so that you can see it. So, I alluded to that we're going to be tapping on different meridian points and we're going to be touching different surfaces of our body. Okay. So, I'm going to show you where those are now. And then we're going to actually do a couple of rounds of tapping so that you can experience it for yourself. Okay. So, we always start here. It's the karate chop point, okay? And we're just gonna lightly tap. That's where the name tapping comes from, okay? That's why a lot of people call it that. Now, something really important, you can tap on either side, okay? I'm right-handed, so I tend to like to actually use my right hand to do the tapping. However, if you're left-handed or if this just feels more natural and comfortable, that is absolutely perfect. Okay, so we're always going to start here. And then once we have said what we need to say here, we're going to move to the eyebrow point. So if you think about where your eyebrows start, you would just lightly tap there. Okay, we don't need to be forceful about it. You can be really nice and gentle. From there, we're going to go to the side of the eye. So again, just lightly tapping. Feels so good already. And then under the eye, under the nose, chin point, and you'll experience this, but typically while we are tapping, we're going to be saying things as we tap, okay? But I just wanted to show you the point so that you have kind of a heads up before we begin. This is the collarbone point, so sometimes people like to open their hand so they can get more. Sometimes they do this. Again, whatever is most comfortable, or you can just stick with the fingertips, okay? There's two more points. The next one is under the arm. So you can either do like this situation or you can do this. Again, whatever feels comfortable. Okay. Or you can even do like, gotta be a little flexible for that one. Even do a little crossover. And then the last one is the top of the head. Okay. Top of the head. So again, you can use fingertips, you can use your flat hand, whatever, as long as you are stimulating those points. Okay, so those are the different points that we use, and these are the meridian points of the body. And so something that's really cool is that it's similar to acupuncture. Okay, so if you've ever heard of acupuncture, where they stick needles into different parts of your body to get your chi flowing, your energy flowing. This is really sorry, my nose tickles now because I'm blocking energy here as we were doing some tapping. So what we are doing is acupressure. So instead of puncturing with needles, we're just lightly applying our hand, right, as we're tapping. And so it's getting a very similar effect to acupuncture. Another fun fact for you. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to guide you through some EFT tapping. So remember that scale we talked about, the 0 to 10 scale. If you have a piece of paper, this is going to be a perfect opportunity. I want you to just jot a number down. Okay. And so I want to do some tapping around a specific phrase. And the specific phrase is, I'm feeling stressed in my body. Okay. I'm feeling stressed in my body. Say that out loud if you can and see where the resonance is. See how true that is for you. Remember, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is going to be, I do not feel stressed in my body. I'm feeling calm. I'm feeling regulated. I'm feeling neutral. Where 10 is going to be, yeah, I actually am like sweating over here. Like I'm feeling very, very stressed in my body right now. So find your number. Again, jot that down somewhere, whether it's a sticky note or on a piece of paper, wherever that is for you. And again, this is just, you don't even have to tell anybody what your number is. It's a way for you to measure your progress through tapping. Okay. So let me see. You've got your number, you know where the points are. The other thing I wanted to mention is that because I've used tapping for so long, I have actually created my own method for tapping. So it's called the TLC method. And it's very specific 3 steps. So what we're doing in each round of the tapping is we're telling our truth. Okay, so this is where I like to explain it as though we are having a safe space to vent. Okay, so you know those conversations where you maybe call your mom or you call your best friend or you call a trusted confidant and you just let it rip, right? You're like, you're never gonna believe what happened today. You know what I mean? You're just like telling them all about it. Okay, so step one is speaking your truth. This is so important. This is not the step to be positive. This is not the step to be, rainbows and sunshine and butterflies. This is the step to be radically honest. Okay. I actually call it being unfiltered. I have a whole separate course on that, but being unfiltered means speaking your truth. So maybe that is, again, I'm just giving examples of language. Today feels really hard. I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling exhausted. Everything just feels like it's uphill. I don't want to do anything, right? That could be an example of your truth in that moment, right? And there's no harm in that whatsoever. So step number one is speaking your truth. Step number two, then we are going to start to let that go. Okay. It's really hard to let it go until you have acknowledged it and given it a voice. Okay. So there's a method to the madness here. So we're gonna acknowledge it and then we're gonna let it go. And then the third and final step is then we get to call in how we want to feel or what it is we want. Okay. So again, if you're feeling stressed in your body, make sure you have your number. Maybe you want to call in feeling peaceful and calm, right? Feeling regulated and happy, feeling joyful and abundant, whatever that looks like for you. Okay, so we're going to go through a little tapping session, and this is something that you can come back to again, just to familiarize yourself with the points, to experience tapping anytime you want, and to feel a shift in real time, especially around holding on to stress in your body. Okay, so I hope that I have covered everything and hopefully you are in a space where you can tap along with me. The less distractions, the better. So even if you have to come back to this when it's more convenient, feel free to do that. Okay. So hopefully you are in a comfortable seated position. And from here, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay. So remember, we're telling our truth in this first round. So we're tapping here and I want you to say, even though I'm feeling some stress in my body, this is where you would say it back to me. Pretend we're together one-on-one and you're just repeating it back to me. So even though there's some stress in my body, beautiful. I am choosing to love and forgive myself anyways. Perfect. And even though I have been holding on to this stress for a long time, I'm ready and willing to let it go now. Beautiful. Even though I can feel this stress in my body. I can feel it in my fill in the blank. Where can you feel this stress? Maybe it's your shoulders, maybe it's your back, maybe it's your neck, maybe it's a part of your arms or legs. Where are you feeling this stress in your body? And I'm ready to acknowledge it now. Perfect. You're doing amazing. Okay, we're going to switch to the eyebrow point. So all of this stress, side of the eye, that's in my body, under the eye, it's not helping me. Under the nose, in fact, it's doing more harm than good. Chin point, and I'm ready to let it go. Allow yourself to naturally exhale if you feel that. Collarbone point, whatever I have been holding on to in my body. Under the arm, maybe it's my never-ending to-do list. Top of the head, maybe it's a specific pain or diagnosis. Eyebrow point, whatever that is. Side of the eye, I'm just acknowledging the feelings that I have towards that. Under the eye, and I trust that it's safe enough to let that go. Under the nose, especially if there's any anger or shame or resentment. Chin point, maybe even frustration. Collarbone point, I'm allowing myself to gently release it now. Beautiful. You can stop tapping for just a moment and go ahead and let's take a nice gentle breath in through the nose and exhale through your mouth. Beautiful. And before we keep going and do the final round of calling in how we want to feel, I just want you to do a quick check-in and see where are you at on that scale of 0 to 10. Okay, especially when you think about the phrase, I feel stress in my body. Another way to say that is I'm holding on to stress, right? In my body. I feel stressed. I'm holding on to stress. However that resonates, see where you are at on the scale of 0 to 10. And the reason I like to check in here is because if you are at a 4 or above, I'm going to recommend you go back and do that tapping again. Okay, the round that we just did around the truth and the letting it go. The reason being is that if our numbers are still too high, it's signaling to me that your body hasn't let it go and therefore it's not ready to accept the new. Okay, and that's totally okay. So if that's you and you're like, crap, like my number's still above the 4, it is okay. It is absolutely okay. Again, if we were working one-on-one, like we have an entire hour to do this, right? And so we're doing it on a much more condensed timeline right now. Again, just so that I can teach the technique to you and so that you can get to experience it, maybe for the first time ever. But know that, again, sometimes it's layers, right? So sometimes it's going to take more time, and that is okay. Okay, trust your body. Your body is going to guide you. And the way that it's going to do that is through the numbers. Okay, that is your body's way of communicating, hey, this is where I'm still at. Okay. So we're going to assume that you are at a 4 or below, which again means you're close you're closer to feeling neutral and calm and regulated. And from that space, you're going to be more receptive to receive then. This is where the neuroplasticity starts to come in, okay? Where we start to change our thoughts, where we start to change our beliefs and our patterns. But again, our body isn't going to be ready to accept that until we've essentially like extracted and like cleared out the other stuff, okay? So if you need to go back and do some more tapping, you totally absolutely can. But when you get to a 4 or below, come back to this part. Okay. So we'll start on the karate chop point, and I just want you to say, even though I was holding on to some stress in my body, I have allowed myself to release some of that today. And I'm noticing the shifts in my body. And I am so ready to keep the good vibes going. Beautiful. Let's move to the eyebrow point. I'm starting to call in more peace. Side of the eye, I'm starting to call in more confidence. Under the eye, whatever it is that I desire. Under the nose, I allow myself to claim it now. Chin point, maybe it's a feeling like happiness or joy. Collarbone point, maybe it's a tangible goal that I'm working towards. Under the arm, maybe it's some health things that I'm working through. Top of the head, whatever it is that I truly desire, eyebrow point, I allow myself to receive it now. Side of the eye, I'm becoming an energetic match. Under the eye, I'm becoming the type of person. Under the nose, who gets what I deserve. Chin point, and I'm allowing myself to claim that now. Collarbone point, feeling courageous. Under the arm, feeling confident. Top of the head, knowing that I get to go for it. Eyebrow point, the best is yet to come. Side of the eye, and so it is. All right, you can stop tapping. Take a nice gentle breath in through the nose and exhale. And just notice, how are you feeling in your body now? You can check back in on that original scale of 0 to 10. You can even close your eyes. I find that that helps connect more and again, kind of like drown out any distractions. So close your eyes and just ask yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, how stressed do I feel in my body now? And notice the first number that pops up. Okay. And hopefully, my hope and my goal is that wherever you started the session at today, you are ending at a lower number. So even if you went from an 8 to a 7, celebrate that. That is progress. That is energy shifting. That is neuroplasticity happening. That is releasing within your body. Okay. If maybe you had a bigger jump, maybe you went from a 6 to a 2, right? Celebrate it. Any shift downward is something to celebrate. Okay. So I just want to say thank you for being here with me today. I hope that you have absolutely loved this technique. And if you have any questions or you want to chat more about tapping or you're interested in any of the resources I have for tapping, feel free to reach out to me. Okay. You can connect with me on Instagram at body, first living. Okay. All one word, body first living on Instagram. Same email, so bodyfirstliving@gmail.com if you want to send an email, if you would prefer to do that. And I welcome any questions. I welcome any connections. If you just want to say hi and stay connected and plugged in and learn more about tapping, there's also the Body First Living podcast as well. So lots of ways to plug in, learn more about tapping, and stay connected with me. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tapping experience. I hope that you learned something new today. And feel free to share with me. Say, hey, I watched this training from you, and here's my top takeaway. That would mean so much to me. I always love chatting with you. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you again for your time today. Aloha.